Danny Elliott, footballer, and this is a big night tonight.
It is, yeah. It is. It is our third property networking event. I've started the business just over a year ago, so I'm really happy with the position that we're in, and it's grown massively. So, yeah.
And what do you want footballers to understand that you probably didn't when you first got into property?
I think as much as they can, really. I think that property investment is something that is very overcomplicated. I think it's a bit of a minefield. There's a lot of ways that people can go wrong, and it's not easy. I think it's something that you're not openly educated in, and it's something that I learnt and improved at through trial and error. I'm no way near kind of a guru in it, should I say? But I think it's something that I've invested in and naturally pointed people in the right direction of and help people with. So I think it's something that I wanted to pursue. It's something that I'm passionate about. And I think the kind of overarching message is that a lot of footballers don't necessarily get the financial advice that they need and and make smart investments while they're still playing, because football is such a short career, and I think property can give you that.
Why do you think footballers are taking property more seriously now, and are they taking it more seriously?
I think so, yeah. I think that a lot of footballers naturally fall into the category of kind of thinking that football's going to last forever, spending the money on cars, clothes, nights out and things that they probably shouldn't, not the best investment.
Why wouldn't you? That's fun though, isn't it?
Exactly, that's fun. But I think that kind of the thing that is always a bit of a reminder is that football is, if you look at it, it goes until you're kind of 35. There's another 30 years of working.
But it could end tomorrow though, couldn't it, as well?
It could, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really important to make sure that people think or kind of have one eye on the future as well as having one eye on now.
Yeah. So when did you first start thinking about post-retirement and what were you going to do in the future?
I'll be honest with you, there was a while where I didn't think I was going to be a footballer. I went to university in America, studied economics. We're still playing football at the same time, but I kind of had two ideas on the go. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do work-wise, but I studied economics and was really interested in investments and stock market and things like that. And I think that as a footballer, I've always kind of had one eye on other things as well. My parents pushed me down kind of the academic route a little bit. So I think I'm a bit of an exception where I think most footballers have always kind of had that main focus as football. I've always loved football, but I think that it's important to always remember that you have to have something else, because for the best players in the world, there's an end date,
Football is a bubble though, isn't it? You're kind of immersed in football, training grounds, to match to all the rest of it. Your time in America, where you were thinking about other things and exposing yourself to other people, did that open your eyes to other possibilities as well that maybe footballers don't get and that FPG can give people?
Yeah, definitely. I think that a lot of footballers, like you say, your best friends are in the changing room with you. You're very immersed in it, and I think naturally the way that the culture is in football is that you have to be immersed in it to be the best at it.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that a lot of people kind of only think about, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just important to make sure that, a lot of footballers around the level I've been playing or slightly higher, you're earning good money, more money than perhaps your friends that have gone into other lines of work. Yeah. However, there's only the very top percentage of your Premier League players that won't have to worry about working after their career. A lot of people kind of are chewed up and spat out and finish football and they have to do something. So I think it's important that if you can get ahead of that and prepare a little bit even in the background, it makes that a little bit more of a soft landing coming out of football, because I think that a lot of people, like you say, you earn good money. I think the average wage in the UK is about 37 grand now. Whatever people go into past football, they're going to be inexperienced. The likelihood is they're going to be starting from the bottom. So I think it's important to make sure that if you can give yourself a bit of a parachute coming out of football with smarter investments and things like that, it just makes it a little bit easier.
You're setting up FPG whilst you're still playing as well. That's a bit of a juggling act?
It is, yeah, it is. I just turned 30, so hopefully I've got 5 or 6 years of my career left. But it's something that I say I'm passionate about. It's something that I kind of naturally went into because I was building a portfolio myself. A lot of teammates and friends were asking me questions about it, and I was helping people and pushing them in the right direction. I thought this is something that I can take a bit further, help more people. I've had a lot of football teams over the last 6 or 7 years, so I've got a lot of ex-teammates and a lot of mutual friends with teammates, and that network is massive. I think a lot of footballers trust what other footballers do. So I thought it was a great opportunity to kind of spread that to more people when I've realised that there's a real need for it, I think.
How has investing in property yourself changed your view on the future and your sort of finances and how you're going to kind of go into the future?
I think that property investment just provides a bit more stability. You know, I think it's a great investment for the long term, which is why obviously I do it. But I think it's really satisfying for me when you help other people, when you help people realise that buying that property is something that can kind of work away and increase in value while they're still playing football. You know, once they've got that property, that will obviously increase in value. You know, the rent will be coming in on the property, and it's an asset that they can then use later in life. Whether they want to sell that to supplement something else they want to do post-football doesn't necessarily. What I say to a lot of footballers is getting into property investment. You don't have to be passionate about bricks and mortar. Yeah. You know, it's just a really solid investment. And I think that what we've tried to do with FPG is kind of clear that cloud that a lot of footballers have where they don't quite understand it. You know, getting into property can be quite daunting. You know, you've got to find one. You've got to find a solicitor, you've got to find a mortgage advisor, you've got to understand that you're making the right investment, you've got to understand all the different trials and tribulations that come with buying the property and the hurdles that go with it. We try and take all them out, take all the pressure away from the client and do all those things for them and ease them through the process, helping them understand, educating them as well, and making sure that they then get something that's set up for them, that's an egg that they can then hatch later in their life.
We're hoping a lot of people are going to walk through those doors in a few minutes' time. What do you hope that people take away from tonight?
I hope people take a little bit more of an understanding about the process, a little bit more of an understanding about what property investment can do for them and what value it can bring to them. I hope that I kind of evoke a little bit of thought after it in terms of considering their own finances. And most importantly, I think, especially from the special guests, I hope they feel a little bit of inspiration. I hope they think a little bit about, you know, their plan post-football. Hopefully they're excited and it's something that they potentially want to get involved in and just learn a little bit more about. Yeah. You know, I think that, like I say, it's something that should be taught a little bit more and something that should be emphasised a little bit more, especially within, you know, your football academies and your young professionals and things like that.
We're expecting some younger players to come tonight as well. Would the advice to them be anything different to maybe some of the older players as well?
I think the younger players and the older players have slightly different goals and different aspirations, and then some of the younger people have got a bit more time before kind of they think their football career ends. But like you say, like you said earlier, you know, things can change, injuries can change, and the wages in football are so volatile. So I think in general, you know, it completely depends. And what I've noticed over the last year, you know, each client's needs, goals, wants are all slightly different. So it's important that you know, as a company, we make sure that we cater to each client, make sure that we understand them. And I think that one thing that we kind of try to kind of get rid of the myth about is that, you know, investing in property, you don't have to be, even want to be a multimillionaire with 1,000 properties. You know, it's important that a few property investments can serve you really well in the long term. Yeah. You know, and everybody's situation is different depending on their wages and things like that.
So you've had about a year of FPG. What's your hopes for the next year?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I set goals last year, and I think that one thing I've learned in business is that it's a lot harder work than I thought it would be. You know, it's never ending, it never stops. And I think that it's grown in different ways than I could have expected. You know, I've got a business partner now. You know, it's not just myself. I think that when I did the first event here last December, it was very much me kind of sharing my story and sharing about how the birth of the business began. And I think now it's a team of us. You know, we work with our clients on a daily basis, and it's kind of a larger moving machine. So I think over the next year, I'd just like to grow the business, you know, help more and more footballers, hopefully grow that team as well, and just continue to have positive impacts on our clients and help them really.
And if a footballer of any age is watching this and they want to get on that property ladder and start investing, how do they get in touch with you and how do they start doing that?
So send us a message on any of our social medias, email us, danny@footballerspropertygroup.com, and we're more than happy to obviously have a chat with you, explain a little bit about the process, understand your situation and talk through your goals and how we can achieve them.
But if you can't set goals in the football properly, then you can't set goals anywhere, can you? Good luck for the next year.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.